Is it okay for if
All right,
we're
folks,
being
we're going to start with debate right now.
You would have to ask. Was that Sandy over there? Yeah.
I'm Dee Gorham from the IEC, and we're going to start the debates, the SFSS debates, right now, 11:30 a.m. So it's a little bit of an intro. Simon Fraser Student Society, every year we elect 10 representatives at the board of directors level to represent us, the students, both within our university and to our university and also to the public at large. These debates will last between 2 to 3 hours out of respect for the student body. We'll try to keep this as concise and quick as possible. The rules for this debate are that we will try to keep our answers concise. We will not use any rude or inappropriate commentary. And last but not least, we will have every candidate introduce themselves. They'll have 30 seconds to introduce themselves to the public as they come up here. So we're going to start with the at-large representatives. You can make your way up to the front. Yeah, so please introduce yourself. About 30 seconds.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Alex Krivoi. I'm a first-year student studying computer science. I'm one of Inspire SFU's candidates for the at-large representative role. Here at SFU, it's too often that I hear from students like you and I that the social structure is often very lackluster. This school on a large scale is known as a work-centered school in British Columbia, and I want to change that. I want to push the curve. I want to help people make friendships and relationships that last a lifetime. I'm working with a team that collectively shares the vision with me and supports my vision in full. Thank you very much. Remember to vote Inspire SFU.
All right, thank you. So I will ask the audience, do we have any audience questions right now? Audience questions? No? All right, so we'll move on to questions that have been submitted.
What does the word accountability means to you?
So the word accountability to me basically means that you make a promise, and if you make a promise, you follow up. You make sure that the things that you promise go through. You make sure that the people that you make your promises to hear from you. It's important to me as a representative candidate that happens in my campaign and throughout my period in office. The reason for that is because I'm a very real individual, and I want to make sure that the promises I make not only are realistic, but the promises I make are followed through.
Great, thank you for that. And do we have another question?
So what work or volunteer experience that make you qualify for the position that you're running for?
So in terms of internal volunteer experience at SFU, since I'm pretty new, I am not necessarily the most qualified. I've only done volunteering here and there, but not on an official level. It was mostly for friends, and it was mostly for other people that spent the time with me to bring me in. But externally, I used to, on a weekly basis, from the hours of 4 to 7 p.m. basically, I used to volunteer on the downtown east side for about 4 years, and I have a lot of experience with being that kind of intermediate role and helping people that are less fortunate and being able to talk to them about their problems and basically being an individual that people can confide in. I feel my qualifications from that definitely will follow through, and I'll be able to help people answer all their questions that they may have in the future.
Right, thank you. And we'll ask another question.
No, I think that's all that I have.
All right, thank you. So in that case, we will move on to the next candidates of Faculty of Business Rep. If you can make your way up here. Thank you, by the way. Pardon? You just said, how's it going? It's going good. No, it's a legit question. All right, so you've got 30 seconds to tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Raunaq Singh, and I am a third-year finance and accounting student, running to be your next business representative. My candidacy is not about making promises that are full of rainbows and butterflies. It's basically about making promises and targeting goals that are real and measurable. So, look forward to answering your questions.
All right, any audience questions?
Come on, anyone? Yes.
I've got a quick question for you. I'm just looking through your platform here. I think one of the important roles of a board of directors is really kind of representing the student body as a whole, rather just than your faculty. Most of these promises are specifically directed at the business faculty, which is great for a faculty rep, but just give me an idea of some of your ideas for the student body as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ideas that I actually came up with are targeted towards the business faculty, but one of the main themes on my platform is collaboration within the faculty representatives who will be potentially elected. First, promises that pertain to the SFSS in general. One of the good ideas that I think I came up with is to create more mural art on campus, specifically, for example, if you ever walk from the library to the AQ, there are those concrete slabs, giant concrete slabs, it's kind of look depressing. Imagine having chalk art or like having groups of students present their works on there. Just look more beautiful, kind of cheer students in a way, and that's something that I'll be targeting. Other than that, there are a few ideas in there that might sound like they attain to the business students, but they definitely can apply to SFU general students. Yeah.
All right, thanks for that answer. Do you have any more questions from the audience? Go ahead.
Hi, Ronnie. My name is Mo. I just have a quick question regarding that last answer that you put forth. I just wanted some clarification on what exactly you mean by collaboration with other faculty representatives and how exactly you go about doing such.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, so one thing that I would say on that's special about business students is that we're, on average, I would say definitely more engaged than other students at SFU. That's something that can apply or should be implemented at SFU in general too. For business, all the BD clubs have like an all presidents club committee where they come in together, they talk about issues, they talk about specific things that are happening with the faculty. This model, I think, can be actually applied to SFU in general, when it comes to different faculties or other groups on campus. So that's one of the models that I'll be looking at and try to explore it further.
All right, any more questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next faculty. If we can have Faculty of Education come up here. All right, I'll give you guys 30 seconds each to introduce yourselves to our audience and mention what you stand for.
Hi everyone, my name is Nakatsu and I'm running for the Education Representative on the SFSS Board of Directors and the team of dedicated individuals inspired to do. This year I've become quite involved in the education faculty as being the president of the Education Student Association, the ESA representative of the SFSS Committee Council, as well as a peer mentor. I've also been able to work closely with the current education representative, Jamie, and I hope to continue building the faculty of education community that she's already laid the foundation for. Thank you.
My name is Leila Amouzandeh, and I'm a fourth-year student in the Faculty of Education with a minor in Curriculum and Instruction. I'm also running to be the Faculty of Education representative, and I'm currently a peer mentor, and I'm also in the ESA. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to questions. Any questions from the audience? No? All right, then we'll move on to submitted questions.
So, if elected, you'll be working on a large team of board members. What is your experience with working in teams?
Go ahead.
So as an aspiring teacher, I know that being a teacher, you have to be able to work as a team. You have to be able to work with other teachers within your school. So this opportunity is a great opportunity for me to work with other board members and other people of the SFSS board to ensure that we work cohesively and to better SFU as a whole. Thank you.
I also believe that teamwork is a huge key in moving forward together and making decisions as a whole. Also, I aspire to become a teacher, and I know how important it is to work with your team teachers. I also am a peer educator at the Student Learning Commons, and we work together to provide learning and writing resources to students. So we work together to collaborate and understand how to better help students and support them with their academic needs.
All right, thank you. We'll ask one more question.
In your opinion, what is the biggest problem currently facing in the education faculty, and what will you do to address it?
Thank you. So personally, what I really value within the Faculty of Education, and many others agree, is in-class experience. So being able to work just physically in a classroom, being able to volunteer is something that I truly value. So what but is quite lacking in the Faculty of Education right now. So what I propose to do is create a program in the Faculty of Education that kind of partners with the university as well as the school boards around the university to ensure that every student has an equal opportunity and an easy opportunity to volunteer within the school to gain these knowledgeable experiences. Thank you.
And I believe that the biggest problem that we currently face is the lack of engagement across all three campuses. Even though we have one of the biggest faculties, which includes the professional development program, we still don't get a lot of people turning out to our events as well as our DSU. So my goal would be to help further promote the Education Student Association and try and bridge the gap between PDP and just the other undergraduate students that are possibly pursuing the PGS or maybe the double minor option. So.
All right, thank you, you two. Keep a hand for these. All right, so we're going to move on to the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. Arts and Social Sciences. All right, so I see that our 3 candidates will be attending the Burnaby today. In that case, we'll move on to the Faculty of Science. All right, so you've got 30 seconds to introduce yourself and state what you stand for.
Hi everyone, my name is Prince Cheema. I'm a second-year molecular biology student. I'm running to be the science representative this year's SFSS election. My experience includes being elected to the vice president of DSU and being a volunteer researcher in a biology lab. As a fellow undergraduate, I understand how hard it is to balance academics, extracurricular involvement, and mental health can be. I'd like to work along with the SFU students to make improvements within our SFU community.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natasha Birdi. I'm running as science representative. I intend on working with the Science Dependency Department of Science student unions to further the incredible successes they've had this year with student engagement and recruitment. By getting students involved earlier in their career, we can effectively create a network of undergraduates, graduates, TAs, and professors that will extend long after the end of their degree.
All right, so we'll open up to audience questions. Are there any audience questions?
Hi, yes, my name is Mo again. I just had a question for Prince, but I guess both of you. How do you plan on preventing sexual assault on campus?
So, as science representative, I will work hard with my board of directors committee to implement mental health by making it easier for people to come forward and know that it's okay to talk to the chairs of the departments and talk to their student unions about getting help with that.
Hi, that's a great question. I'd like to say a survey done in 2010 to 2014 America in the Department of Justice, Office of Justice Program, says that out of 1,000 sexual assault cases, only 310 are reported, which states 70% go unreported. And I'd like to implement that at SFU too. Sexual assault is very huge in today's society, and a lot of people are scared to get help. If elected, I'd like to advocate to open more centers and produce more help. But immediately, if I get elected, I'd like to open the visibility and make it easier to see where you can go to get sexual help right away. And then also, as my term goes on, advocate for more centers to prevent sexual help and help people who are victims.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Okay, so this one's for Natasha, and then too. You stated in your platform that science student unions meeting attendance has increased substantially. Would you be willing to go into more detail regarding that increase?
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Physics Student Association, and I also spend a lot of time in the Math Student Association, Math Student Union, sorry. And in physics, we've had a handful of first year and second year students actually hanging out in the common room, taking part in working on homework together, and that is something that I haven't seen in the last 3 years as a third year student who was the youngest student in the PSA for a very long time. The Math Student Union is also bustling with activity this year, and it's really exciting to see the increased engagement that students have shown in these DSUs. The next step is for the SFSS to bridge the connection between the SFSS and DSUs to broaden that, to encourage that involvement even further.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. I did some research on myself and the discrepancy in that statement. Within the Behavioral Neuroscience Student Union, this semester we're averaging 4.75 members. In the fall semester, we averaged 7.7. Within the BPK Student Society, one of the biggest student societies within sciences, this semester we're averaging 9.6 members. Last semester in the fall, we averaged 14 members. This trend exists within the 11 DSUs within sciences. The only way the results make sense where we have more members now is if you incorporate the summer. Within summer, we have less students. So if you compare this semester, the fall semester, to last semester, fall semester, to this semester, you see that numbers have decreased. So there's a discrepancy in that statement. If I were elected, I'd like to increase that by appealing to students who don't want to join DSUs and make a platform where I join all 11 DSUs within sciences on one platform where students can get involved without directly joining the DSU, where different opportunities to get involved will be available. So I do not like the statement where there is growth. No, there's actually a decline in student engagement, and I'd like to fix that if I were elected to student representative.
All right, thank you, you two. We're going to move on to the next faculty now. Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Thank you guys for your time. Birdi, Natasha, can you talk about the science projects that you guys had this year, and in particular the amount of success that you guys had in the last year? Thank you.
Yeah, we had a huge success with Science Rush this year. This is an event that's on yearly, and we increased our participation by 50 people. Last year we had 100 students, 100 froshies attending the event, and this year we have 150. with this attendance, a lot of these froshies are the people that I see in student unions.
Awesome, thank you. So it looks like there is an overall trend that there is a lot more engagement. And I'd like to acknowledge that, Prince, thank you for your nitpicky comments. But the overall thing seems to appear that there is a lot more engagement, especially with first years, which for the sustainability of the SFSS community is brilliant. So thank you, Natasha, for the work that you put in. And thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
With that statement, if you go on the SFSS website and look at all the student unions, all the meeting minutes are publicly available and the attendance is done with every meeting. If you go on the website and you open the behavioral neuroscience one, you'll see that in the last 4 meetings, which this semester, there were 5, 4, 5, and 5, which averaged 4.75. Last semester, there were 8, 8, 7, 9, 8, 8, and 6, which averaged 7.7. This trend exists in all, and I encourage all of you to go and research it yourself. There is no upwards trend, there's a downwards trend. I would like to fix this and inform all of you to make a decision based on the results you see, not off one frosh event, which was due to the increased number of science students enrolled this semester, or last semester.
I'll give you a chance to rebuttal, but I just want to mention that for the next few questions coming from the audience, if you could please try to keep it more general to the actual faculty rep position, I greatly appreciate that. But I'll give you a chance to rebuttal.
So yes, there has been an issue with meeting attendance in the last semester, and I acknowledge that on my platform, as it is due to the changes in the SFSS food grants. Having talked to the executives of each DSU, the biology, the physics, the math, it has been, they've experienced a lot of miscommunication with the extent of how these new rules were being implemented. As during summer, they were shown as a guideline, as something to be voted on and discussed. However, in the spring, many DSUs, some DSUs, physics, had, physics specifically, was told that the $25 allocation for monthly meetings and $50 allocation for bi-weekly meetings was mandatory. However, the biology student union was told that it was more of a guideline. With these guidelines, physics specifically spends around $80 to $90 on food per meeting, and this is what brings in students to the meetings. Sometimes you need incentive for students to attend meetings and go out of their way and skip homework time to attend meetings and get involved, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Short statement, got 15 seconds.
So she just said that she did not state that there's an increase in DSU. If you go to her platform, in line 16, first sentence, science DSUs have been incredibly successful this year with increased attendance.
All right. As mentioned before to our candidates here, some of these questions, a lot of the questions that are going to be asked today, everyone's going to have a chance to actually get a copy and answer them through their social media. So I'm going to have to cut you two off right now because we are going over time. But thank you anyways, you two. You've been very strong competitors. All right, so it's the Faculty of Applied Sciences. Faculty of Applied Sciences. And I'd just like to remind the audience, please no very direct or personal questions. Try to keep it to the faculty. All right, hi, so you've got 30 seconds to introduce yourself and state what you stand for.
Sure. My name is Kiarash Mirsalehi. I'm a third-year computing science student. I was an executive of the Computing Science Student Society for over a year. I've been the council chair for these past 2 semesters, and I've worked with Jeffrey along his term as our faculty of applied science chair. There's 3 main things that I want to focus on during my campaign. The first of which is directly regarding faculty, and that's Surrey space for mechatronic and software students. Now, the reason is mechatronics, they have to do a lot of robotic stuff, a lot of soldering, and they have no space provided to them on this campus. And that means they have to resort to doing it in their garage or elsewhere. And honestly, how are you supposed to get work done if you don't have any workplace to do? My other two main points are transparency. I think a lot of the points, I think transparency is very important, and I think the SFSS has done a fairly bad job of being transparent this past year. And my third point is having more small-scale events that can start bringing in engaged students, and I want the events to be on all 3 campuses. I don't think it's fair that just because we're mainly oriented in Burnaby, we have almost all of our events in Burnaby and focus primarily on Burnaby while we ignore the other 2 campuses.
All right, thank you. So I'll open up the floor for audience questions. Any audience questions? All right, so we'll use submitted questions now.
So this question is from the current applied science representative who could not be present at this campus today. So more questions will follow at the Burnaby campus debate. So this is not an easy position to undertake. What is something that motivates you about this position and that will convince you to keep working hard every day regardless of any difficulty you face?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? There was reporters about this.
What is something that motivates you about this position? And then what will convince you to keep working hard every day regardless of any difficulties that you might face?
There's a few things that motivate me for this position. One is having worked with all the DSUs and the women groups in Faculty of Applied Science, I see that there's a lack of trust in the SFSS. There's a bond that just doesn't exist. Faculty of Applied Science, to a big extent, tries to be independent, tries to do its own thing, and I think we should reevaluate that. That, you know, if the two work together, it'll be like great things will happen. And so that's one of the things that motivates me is I want to recreate that bond. I want to make sure that the faculty works with the student side because then everyone progresses and engagement increases. So that's one of the reasons why I want to keep moving forward. Another thing that motivates me is honestly having spent like the last 2 years of my life have changed drastically. And I have a lot of that to thank for the student societies that I've worked with. They've improved my life and I've seen them improve the lives of many other students. And I want to give back and I want to help students and make the university experience better.
Thank you. Any more questions? Audience? No? All right, another submitted question. General submitted question.
So from your platform, you said that you will try to increase the space for a certain student. So can you please let us know like what is your like specific plan to do this? Because I know that it is not easy.
I understand it's not easy, which is why I made sure to specify I want to increase space for the Faculty of Applied Science. I realize that we can't get more space in general, but I think something that needs to be done is students that have to do mechanical work, that have to do work such as soldering, that can't just be done at home or on a couch or on a desk. I want to make sure those students have space. And you know, I want to try and work with other groups and work with SFU to try and make sure they get their space. So what this might mean is trying to go and collaborate with IATs or IAD in general, since they have multiple students around the campus, and see if we can create some sharing system. Or work with security to see if there's a room where the student societies can be permitted to do their work without being disturbed, without security coming and saying you're not allowed to do it.
All right, thanks, Kia. Thanks for your answers. Oh, one more question. We'll come back, Kia. We've got an audience question. Bit late.
Hi, Kia, and good luck in the rest of the election. I just had a question regarding the space expansion for applied sciences students. Space expansion is one of the things that we've been working on a lot with the SFSS this year, and we did have some progress. A lot of the things, I guess the issues that we face is that on Surrey campus there's lots and lots of different groups who want space. So there's faculty who want space, there's other clubs that want space, there's for example dance groups that want studio space. So how do you plan on working with the university to establish more space for applied sciences students over all the other students that need space as well?
I think it's important to go and essentially take in the needs of every group and realize who has the greatest need, who needs a space the most. There are obviously other students that need study space. There's obviously different groups that need space to work in. But the reality of the situation is if there's a job that you physically cannot do without space, such as soldering. Soldering isn't somewhere, it's not something you can just do at home. A lot of people, unless you have access to a large access garage, can't just do soldering at home. It creates fumes, it creates smoke, and it doesn't work. So what I plan to do is try and talk to other groups that already have space on campus and see if we can create some sort of agreement to share some space. So I recognize that there's a need for other groups as well to have space, and I'm not denying that. And I will also try to see if we can, partner with the university to try and get more space for that as well. But I think it's important to look at the needs, see the groups that need it the most, and prioritize them.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Kia, for those answers. So we're going to move on to Faculty of Communication, Art and Tech, and Environment. So for today at the Surrey debates, we'll only have a Faculty of Communication, Art and Tech candidate here. And they'll give you 30 seconds to introduce yourself and state what you stand for. No worries.
Hi everyone, my name is Amrita Mohar and I'm running for your next FCAP representative for SFSS with Inspire SFU. In my past experience, I've been involved with working with the Communication Student Union and Young Women in Business in planning events. From this experience, I've learned the value of providing young individuals with resources that can expand their resume and network. With that being said, this has inspired my platform to be about two things: innovation and teamwork, which I value highly.
All right, so do we have any audience questions for Amrita? Audience questions? Go ahead.
Hey, so this one's from the Peak Twitter page. Kathy Lynn says, can you ask Amrita what she thinks the key issues right now are in FCAT and how she'll go about solving them?
Okay, well, that's a really good question. Thank you so much for asking that. I think some of the key issues that I've seen personally working with this Communication Student Union is the fact that there's not a lot of, we don't have a voice, that's one. And with me being an FCAT rep, I want to establish that voice for the department, and I also want to ensure that, people know who I am. I think that's another key issue that we're losing. The fact that, to be quite honest, last year I didn't know that we had an FCAT rep, and that would have helped me a lot when it came to planning events, when it came to establishing more resources. So for myself to establish a stronger presence in the FCAT department, as well as ensuring that I can provide the resources they need to plan events, to plan workshops that will, increase people's network and resumes, I think that's something that I need to, ensure that's happening on my part.
Any more audience questions? Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Stanley. I'm actually a CS student. And my question for you is, they already established programs like the Business and Design program, which I'm currently in right now, and has been really great to get people. So how would you increase engagement for such a program? There's an entrepreneurship program, which is really helpful, I think, for CS students, because there's a lot of things that we already said that we would like this as well. How would you increase engagement for such a program?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. With working in Young Women in Business, me and my another team member on Inspire SFU, her name's Jessica, she's running for business rep, we made a program called WISE, and it's basically every Saturday morning, students would come to SFU Burnaby and basically learn tangible skills like graphic design, how to build a portfolio and resume. That's a Saturday morning class. How did we get like 30 students to come in and learn about a tangible skill? Well, you provide an incentive. Their incentive was they were working with industry professionals, and they were able by the end to have a certificate that they could bring to an employer saying, hey, I know the basic skills of Adobe Photoshop, I know the basic skills of
I know how to manage different social media platforms. So I think with that, providing incentives for students is something that I value highly, and I think that when you have that, a student will be more enticed to come to an event. And it's not just bringing food, like, yeah, you can have food and that's great, but at the end of the day, we're here to, better our careers academically and for our future.
All right, Amrita, thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Faculty of Health Sciences. All right, please introduce yourself and state what you stand for.
Hi everyone, my name is Yasmin Khalili and I'm currently in my 4th year with a major in health sciences and a minor in biology. I have a diverse repertoire of experience in my 4 years at SFU with being on co-op, working in lots of different places on campus such as Rex, Student Central, several different research labs, and volunteering on campus for different events as well. What I really want to do and really working closely with my awesome team, Shift SFU, is to increase opportunities for students. Now, health science is a quickly growing faculty. It is currently one of the smaller ones, but growing incredibly fast. And I really want to increase opportunities for health science students, especially the new ones that come in, for how to get involved and do more on campus.
All right, thanks, Yasmin. Audience questions? Any audience questions? No? All right, we'll move on to submitted questions.
Being elected to the board is a big time and energy commitment, so how would you balance school and serving the board?
Absolutely, and that is a really good question and something we all need to consider being on the board. For students, we all put our academics first, but with a role like this and representing so many students in your faculty, it's important to bring your position on the board of directors as a high priority as well. So I'm currently doing a whole bunch of different things on campus and working in 3 labs at this time. But if I am to be elected on the board, I would make this a higher priority and possibly step down on my other positions. But at the same time, I'm talking to a lot of other people now who are interested in being involved in research, and I would allow others to take my positions in the lab, so not leaving them vacant, so I can prioritize more of my time here.
All right, any audience questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi Yasmin, it's just a fun question. Based on your experience with your faculty, what's your favorite event or any sort of initiative that your faculty has done, and is there anything in particular that you want to do in your role?
Thank you, Rajan, for the question. What I really enjoyed that Health Science has done is the peer mentorship program where they bring snacks and treats into the Health Science student union room to encourage people to sit together and study together. One event that I was a part of was the Frosh last September, and it was very unfortunate that there wasn't a big turnout, unlike science. So what I really want to do as a health science rep is to connect health science with other faculties as well who are doing something so incredibly well because they've been doing it for longer and because they have more people on their teams, and to learn from science and to learn from business to see how they've done their Froshes, how they've gotten people to take part in it and how they planned it, and to bring those into health sciences as well.
All right, thank you, Yasmin. We're going to move on to the next, we're going to power through actually. We're going to move on to the VP of External Relations candidates. VP of External Relations. All right, ladies, I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to introduce yourselves and state what you stand for.
Hi, my name is Jasdeep, and I'm running for VP External Relations for Shift SFU. I won't speak a lot about my experience. You guys are welcome to look me up on LinkedIn if you have any questions about that. but I will go into my platform as that is the most important aspect of my position. So I'm running for advocating for more increased affordable student housing. I want to work with the provincial government as far as increasing indigenization of all 3 of our campuses. And lastly and most importantly, I want to work on creating the change that we have here and taking it across and spreading it to other student unions and really creating partnerships with them so that when we go to advocate with the provincial government, we talk as a community, as a collective, and we make bigger changes.
My name is Livleen, and I'm running for Vice President, External Relations with Inspire SFU because I'm a passionate, motivated, and dedicated individual that wants to advocate for your needs. I'm running with Inspire SFU because I want to change within the SFSS, but if you want change, you need to be the change. I know in my term, I will be advocating for mental health and sexual violence prevention. I will be creating an engaging campus culture at SFU, and I will be representing our university professionally and persuasively to external bodies. My name is Livleen, and I want to be your Vice President of External Relations.
Thanks, ladies, for your intros. Any audience questions? We'll start with you.
Hi, and good luck to both of you. What are your opinions on needs-based grants?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, so SFSS has been doing a lot of work this semester with needs-based grants. It's something we've been advocating for. So what is your opinion on them, and is that something that you would continue? Because it's something that the VP External this semester, or this year, sorry, is doing as well. So would you continue that, and what are your opinions on needs-based grants?
So definitely that's an important initiative that we do need to continue. BC is the only province that doesn't have needs-based grants. We also have the highest amount of debt as far as student loans go. So right now we have $1.8 billion of student debt. About 35,000 is the amount that people graduate with as far as student debt goes. So not only do we need to focus on needs-based grants, but we also need to focus on maybe cutting down the interest that the government puts on student loans. Because at the same time, it's slowing down the amount of time it takes to graduate. Students are forced to take on part-time jobs and push their family planning. And with the student loans, what we need to also consider is that, yes, there are grants that we can offer, but we need to alleviate the interest that we also put on other students in general.
I actually really do agree with Jas. I think it's important that we keep advocating for needs-based grants. Being part of the wrestling team at SFU, like a lot of my teammates are international students, and like I literally know someone that lived in a closet because she couldn't afford tuition because she needed the grant money, but she just couldn't receive it. And I do think that this is something, if I am elected and I'm advocating for student needs, that this is something that I do want to continue, especially because I've noticed it from a personal perspective affecting my own friends.
Hi, my name is Colin, and I do have a question for Livleen. You mentioned that you help to counteract sexual assault and sexual violence on campus. SFU actually or the SFSS, just actually do a brand new policy on that. So I guess my question for you is, would you be changing that and redoing the entire process over again, expanding on it, or continuing the current work, including the SFSS's current consent package initiatives? What would you change, or would you continue with the existing program that's already in place?
I just want to mention that that question will be directed to the both of you.
Sure. So I do want to continue with what the SFSS is doing, but one thing that I've really noticed is that being an NCAA athlete, we have mandatory workshops for sexual violence prevention, as well as if you're a resident student. And what I found interesting is that residence has approximately 800 students. Student athletes, there's only around 400 of us. But we have up to 30,000 people, 26,000 that are actual SFSS members. Why is no one else getting that mandatory orientation? And it doesn't have to be like an hour-long workshop, but I think what's important is for people to understand what consent is, which really surprises me because a lot of people, they don't understand that if you're too drunk, you can't consent. So why isn't it that in first week of classes, where every professor has to show that mandatory T video, I don't know if you guys have seen that, which is actually quite effective. That is something that I want to do, as well as my previous experience sitting down with the vice president of SFU because of our student athlete advisory committee. I was actually able to give my own opinions on our sexual violence policies before SFU never had any. And I know every student athlete was invited, but it was only myself and 2 other individuals that actually decided to show up. And I was only a second year. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I think SFU can do a much better job if we continue to advocate for it.
So I definitely agree with everything that Liv just said. A lot of people don't understand what consent is, and education is the most important thing, having those open conversations. But to take it further than that, there's many student unions. Almost every student union in the province is faced with the same problem. We are students at the end of the day, and no matter what school you're from, you have the same issues facing you. The BC Federation of Students is working really hard for the past 2 years to bring about this change. They have a lengthy campaign that is backed by research and advocacy initiatives that go straight to the government, and I want to partner with them. I want to sit at the table that they're sitting at, have those discussions with them, see what other schools are implementing, and why we don't have the same policies as that. We need to bring it back to our school and make sure that when we move forward, we move as a collective. It's not just an issue that affects SFU, but it's the student population in all of the province, and we can do a better job as moving forward as a collective.
I'll allow one more question.
Okay, yes, so this question is directed mainly to Jasdeep, but it'd be good if both you could address this one. Jasdeep, in your platform, you mentioned something about advocating to lower student housing costs. How exactly would you go about doing that? Because lowering real estate prices is actually something that's a fairly complex issue, and there's a lot of moving variables with this type of thing, including government, including foreign investors, including local speculators, including local real estate developers, including foreign real estate developers, including our tax code, including our tax laws, various tax laws, including the prices of softwood lumber, right, trade negotiations with NAFTA, and political decisions on the federal, provincial, and municipal level. So what would be your plan to actually account for all of those variables in a manner that actually effectively lowers housing costs? And how much of our advocacy budget would you be willing to allocate towards that aim?
So just to correct you a little bit on that, what I'm not imposing is to actually provide student housing. It's different from what you're mentioning. It doesn't have that many stakeholders involved. For student housing, for schools, what we're not allowed to do at the moment is take on personal debt as far as schools go to initiate those projects. Currently in the 2018 budget, we have been given $450 million to implement and take on these loans as a school to create 5,000 new beds within the community. But what I want to do is advocate to the government to allow different programs for schools to actually take on this debt to implement these student housing programs. So it's not about creating from what I understand when you mentioned it, I don't know if this is correct or not, but my platform is specifically for the campuses. It's not just for housing in general. And when I mentioned alleviating the housing market's pressure, it's just because at the same time we are students, but not a lot of us have the opportunity to live on res or to find affordable housing that is near the campuses. And 25% of our population is mature students. What I see lacking on SFU campuses right now is family planning and family housing for those quarter of our students that are left with these decisions on whether to live on campus or not to live on campus. And the solution to that is giving these secondary institutions the ability to finance themselves and support these capital projects, which at the moment we don't have. It's only the budgets that are allocated by provincial government that allow us to take on those debts. Right now, that's $450 million for 2018, but that only creates 5,000 student beds, and with our increasing population, that's not enough. So we need to create long-term plans with not only SFU, but also other universities in the province as far as how can we change those policies. We need to work with the government. The provincial government is the one that handles all that, and they would be the primary stakeholders I'd like to speak with.
Well, personally, I didn't write this in my platform because for me, when I wrote my platform, I wanted to focus on things that I know were feasible. I do understand that this is something that, again, like my friend had to live in a closet, so I understand that affordable housing is important. But one thing that I would like to continue that the current Vice President of External is leveraging that relationship that she did build with the government this year to do something similar that Jasdeep said as well, to continue that relationship, to figure out how we can make it affordable.
All right, thank you, ladies. I'll move on to the next position now. So if the candidates for VP University Relations can come up. All right, guys, you have 30 seconds to introduce yourself and state what you stand for.
My name is Colin Fowler. I'm currently a third-year economics major with a minor in business. I really decided that after really being in the Economic Student Society for over a year as membership officer and Alpha Kappa Psi fraternity's recruitment chair, that maybe it was time to expand my horizons a little bit. So what's happening is basically I promoted my 4-point policy, and it's 4 points that SFU is going to work with the university with, or the SFSS and the university can work in tandem together to try to solve some big things. One of the big ones is the gondola. I want to say that as soon as the snowstorm hit 2 weeks ago, I put out a page right there to gain support for it, not in election time, but before. Secondly, athletics. We met on March 5th to talk about ways to improve athletics in order to give them more exposure and give them more support to really create a vibrant campus life. I want to talk about maintenance. The AQ library and biology building are actually going to fail in an earthquake, and the BBK student lounge and education building are months overdue. I don't want to see the same thing happen to Surrey either. I think Surrey students deserve a little bit better than a public campus, and I want to make sure that never happens here. Finally, I really want to deal with mental health. I have friends who've been told to wait 9 months, and I'm sorry, but that's just way too long to wait when somebody's in crisis. If you're really into life or death situation, you cannot wait 9 months. You really need to work to decrease the lineups and ensure that students are getting the proper support.
Hey everybody, my name is Jackson Freedman. I'm running to become the next VPUR alongside Colin here on the SFSS Board of Directors. Throughout my time at SFU, I've worked pretty hard to try to improve the campus community in a number of different ways. Most notably, I've spent the last year serving you as the arts rep on the Student Society's Board of Directors. I hope to build on this experience to make some important changes to our SFU community, important changes about campus safety primarily, mental health resources, and also just collaborating with SFU in as possible a manner as we can in some really important projects. I also call on projects like the gondola, on optimizing the student union building and the stadium projects for student athletes and for students at large. I'm hoping to make these changes along with an incredible team of student leaders inspire SFU. So thank you very much.
So we'll open out to audience questions. Please keep your questions general to the position, directed to both candidates.
So as a student athlete myself, I think it's great that both teams are advocating to increase awareness for athletics, but what specifically are you guys planning to do to support athletics? I know we have been promised for years that we're going to have more engagement, but what are you going to do to effectively make a change?
That's a good question, especially as an SAEC athlete yourself. I think it's really important to note that we were at the SAEC meeting before Inspire SFU actually showed up to it. Second of all, it's actually specifically in my platform where I said I really want to get it televised throughout the school. That's something that we're going to be working with SFU to actually get the athletes events televised. Second of all, they wanted better communication. So if this means that we can do things like email blasts or anything else relevant, we're going to do that to support our athletes. We're going to make sure that we have game day events. The current SFSS board, I'm sorry, but some of them tried to get a tailgate day event with the athletes together. That failed and fell through. We've looked into it, we've looked at the things, and we're dedicated to working towards with the athletes on other initiatives about game day viewings. Thank you.
All right, so there's a few things that we really believe in with respect to the athletic community. This last year on the board of directors that I actually engaged in a few different initiatives to raise more awareness around events tailored for athletes on campus. We put together kind of a document for the athletic community as a team, Inspire SFU, and on that document we have a few different points. One is to tailor more events to athletes, build on that work we did last year. The second one is to understand concerns. So I want to try to establish a line of communication between athletes and the board of directors that's more reliable than we've had in the past. And I also think one possibility here would be actually integrating a seat on our SFSS events and potentially advocacy committee specifically designated for a member of the SAAC. I think that's an important change that we could make to integrate athletes' concerns more into the student society structure. And I really agree with Colin on the point about visibility. I think we should do everything we can to ensure athletes have a great deal of visibility on campus, primarily through the television screens. I don't understand why those don't play games right now. All athletics games are live streamed. So that's a really important change we could make. Also, optimizing the student union building that we're having developed on campus for the athletic community itself. I think just featuring some of the great successes that athletes have within that building, ensuring that they're adequately represented as well. And just if I can briefly touch on the tailgate event, I was actually a part of the organizing committee for that event as well. And there were some issues with the event that did fall through, but most of those issues actually occurred in the relationship between SFU and the student society there, and with the athletic community at large. There are a number of regulations around alcohol policy on campus, and specifically with the NCAA. So there are really considerable barriers in place to events like this on campus, but I think it's really important to work collaboratively with SFU to try to take down those barriers and ensure we can have events that support athletes on campus.
I'll let you guys rebut through your online platforms.
Because I think Jas and I disagree between like resolving public.
Okay, no, we'll definitely we'll continue, but we'll probably have to limit audience questions in that case. Go ahead.
That sounds good. One thing I would like to say is we actually did talk to the SAAC, and they said they would be okay with completely eliminating the alcohol involved. So that's one barrier that we've already talked to them about and worked to eliminate before even actually planning any events whatsoever. That's one of the things I'd like to say. So it's obviously there's barriers, but I think that through hard work and really looking at the issues, we can really work together to come into this. And I also think it's really important to mention that some of the athletes we were talking to said they felt abandoned by the SFSS, that they weren't worth it, direct quote in the eyes. So that to me speaks to a little bit of a troubled relationship, but not exactly sunshine and rainbows. That's the mistake.
I'll respond to that as well. I think those are really good steps to be taking, and I actually would agree with Colin with respect to an absence of sunshine and rainbows. I think that athletes are really underappreciated on campus. It's one of the areas that I worked probably hardest on throughout my year on the board of directors, ensuring they do have that representation and have a bit of a stronger voice on campus, and I just intend to continue to do so.
All right, thank you guys. We're going to set just one question from the audience, so your turn.
I've seen you in the lineup before, so if you'd like to go.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, if you have any questions that are not submitted, please submit them to Shirley and Diane here so that our candidates can have the opportunity to answer these through their social media. Let's go ahead.
Gentlemen, thank you both for taking the time to come out today. One of the questions I want to get towards you, very fast, very simple. A position like you are is very generic and very large and skills that can be done. What motivated both of you to run for the position? What do you believe you bring to the table based on past experience? Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll kind of encompass my whole motivation for running for the Student Society in the first place in this answer. When I came to SFU, I'm from Ontario originally, and I didn't have a major social network at all, and I saw really considerable weaknesses with respect to the Student Society, engaging with first-year students and getting kind of more students involved in their structure. When I did get involved, I saw how considerably positive that change was for me personally. So I wanted to try to ensure that as many students as possible were aware of that opportunity and how they could kind of develop their experiences. I tried to do that through a lot of engagement initiatives as arts rep, but to build on that and talk about the UR position, I think that this is probably outside of the presidency one of the most important positions with respect to ensuring that that student experience is as positive as possible. I see the university as, to some degree, setting the rules that we can play by. They're really kind of they're an overarching organization. They have the greatest deal of control over the university campus, but the Student Society is at stake as well. So optimizing that relationship and ensuring that we work collaboratively together, I think will have a huge impact on student engagement, have a huge impact on the kind of the life that students have at SFU, and that's really what drives me, is to make the university a bit of a better place.
I want to thank my opposition candidate here for the work that he has done. I have seen it, so thank you for your work. I appreciate that. For me, I think one of the things that kind of made me decide that this might be a good one for me was that I've had the chance to represent economics in the department as well as make major policy decisions in terms of the way that we admit students and things like that for the future. So that was really big for me to be able to come to the table with respect and trust for each other and support each other and really build a really positive connection. This also allowed us to actually get even more money than normal for our Economic Student Society Career Night, the biggest career night in the arts department, arguably on campus. Most successful this year than ever before, and this is all done through trust and that relationship that we've had. And then my experience with Alpha Kappa Psi designing events for recruitment really helped me bring out the people who are engaged in the events, people like the events, and that really inspired me to run. But I honestly have to say I couldn't have done it without Jas telling me that I should consider running for position at the SFSS. Thank you for inspiring me to take this great next step in my life, and best of luck to both parties. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your responses. We're going to move on to the next position.
Thank you.
So if VP Student Services candidates can make their way up. All right, so you've got 30 seconds to explain who you are, what you stand for.
All right, everybody, thank you for taking time out to come out today. My name is Amar Rihani, and I'm running alongside Shift SFU. I'm going to be your next VP Student Services. In this position, I have not ran before with SFSS, but being an at-large member with the Surrey Campus Committee has allowed me to see things from the Surrey campus perspective, as well as the Burnaby campus perspective. Taking this time has allowed me to see things in terms of a club perspective as chair on the SFU Stem Cell Club, working as an executive director within the SFU Red Cross Club, and one of the volunteer directors on Students for Humanity. Taking this time to work within clubs on different campuses is allowing me to bring a lot to the table in terms of what SFU can bring in terms of student service position. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any audience questions?
Hi, Samar. I do have a question. So one of the things that's really important to me when I'm voting for candidates is to really care about attendance. So it's one thing to talk about all these great initiatives you've been part of, but would you be able to maybe speak to your experience and maybe your opposition candidates' attendance in terms of the Surrey Campus Committee? It's a really important thing out here in Surrey, and I want to make sure Surrey gets the best treatment possible from the best person for the job. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin, for the question. In terms of how I'm going to change that question in a sense, rather than targeting, because I have been on the Surrey Campus Committee as well, and my attendance has been rather poor due to the fact that I couldn't make attendance times due to classroom collision. So in the same sense that Simran has had these issues as well, I'm sure there are reasons that come into play as well. And one of the great things that's come into play in Surrey Campus Committee is that we have a policy that if you are constantly missing meetings, and Rajan can vouch for this as the chair, if you're consistently missing meetings without regards being offered, you are taken out of the group and your seat is filled by another who can do a better job. This is not to degrade a person or make them feel worse for what it is that they're doing, but if you are consistently not showing up to meetings, there's an issue that is involved there. And if you're able to give regards and validation, that doesn't mean you're avoiding your work and perspective. It means you're doing it in a different position at a different time, but constantly making the work that needs to be done on a week-to-week basis. So I do thank Simran for her work, and I do feel like I do the same amount of work that she does on a constant basis. But as long as people are offering regards and keeping a very simple and concise answer to everything that they're working for, I have to respect it on both sides of the spectrum.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question.
Sure.
What do your duties actually highlight? What do you do?
In my position?
Yeah, like what kind of feedback do you actually have?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So one of the things I'll turn to, thank you for that, was I want to refer back to a few years when the position of student services was actually almost removed entirely. There was words being spoken that they didn't need the position, staff was being hired, it wasn't going to be as useful. But in the exact polar opposite defense, I feel like student services can bring the most to the table if very proactive in its role. So one of the things that you can handle is health and dental, for example. Working in a dental office, working in an orthodontics lab, I've seen the work that goes into the dentistry perspective. Having a potential interest in medical myself, I know what goes into it. And approximately $83 per 4-month term at SFU will get you coverage on health and dental, about $265 in a 12-month term. In terms of dealing with this, there's a new independent contractor coming into SFU who's going to be dealing with the layover of the plan. What this needs to be done is that's not going to ask me to take this entire plan and twist it and change it, because that's out of my power as a VP. What it means is consistent communication between students like yourself who are looking for answers and a possible plan that might be complex to understand, especially when it comes to health and dental. To really kind of summarize your question, it means bringing concepts like the UPass, health and dental, things that are accessible to you as a valid student and undermining or underlying what it is important that you deserve to know about them. Depends on...
Yeah. just so that the people watching this, you just ask how much influence.
Absolutely. And I think on a scale of 1 to 10, that depends on how proactive you are. If I'm spending my term sitting away, and I have to refer to Jimmy Dessa because he did a brilliant job of being at every single event, showing up as much as possible. So my kudos to him for being active. He showed people what it means to be in a position like student services where most people, such as yourself, do not know what the role is, and said, hey, you know what? I can be active on campus. I can tell you about the UPass, health and dental, and make it active in terms that you know what you are buying and paying for as a student. In terms of as a 1 on the spectrum, if you are not active in a role, people will forget about you. We have staff at SFSS who are more than willing and capable to do a brilliant job at the position, and we can be forgotten as VPs even, and be paid for work that we're not even alive to know.
So this gentleman discussed the influence with administration, and that'll be the last question.
Thank you again for that one. I would say that again depends on how much you're working along as a cohesive team unit. That's why it is important right now. I tell this to everybody as a general statement. We shouldn't be looking at this as slates. We're looking at this as 2 teams who bring a lot to the table in varying different parties. Once we make one board, people have to work as a cohesive unit. Me as student services, suppose I were to get elected. If I marched forward with policies and implementations that I thought were smart, they would get undermined within 5 minutes. If I work alongside presidency, because if the next president steps down, I would be the one who would take the position following. But if this is the case, you have to look to cohesive, team unit to work as a team. If I can't bring one opinion to the table, it's not as powerful as working as a cohesive team.
All right, thank you, Samar, for your comments.
Thank you very much.
We're going to move on to VP of Student Life. Okay, sorry. VP Student Life. All right, so we're going to go on to VP Finance. Neither. All right. Do you want to come back up there in that case? Do you want to answer that question?
Samar, was it?
Hi, Samar, yes.
So how are you going to be different than Jimmy Dessa?
That's a great question. One of the biggest things I want to push forward, I'll actually refer to the University of Calgary as one of the biggest implementations I've used. Number 1 on my platform is a club matchmaker. A lot of people are saying that sounds like a complex topic, exact polar opposite. But it is a very simple algorithm where students in any level or faculty can go online to the SFSS website, look through a simple questionnaire, quote unquote, that looks into what their interests are. Is it linguistic? Is it humanitarian work? Is it a sporting event? Fraternities? Going through a simple questionnaire activity until once you are finished, you arrive on a platform that offers you the top, let's say 5 clubs or areas on campus that you might love to be getting involved with. What this means is clubs are benefiting greatly. They're getting students who might not want to come to clubs days, who might not want to come to icebreakers, and are active, but once this is done, you have people showing up to clubs more often, and University of Calgary has actually told me, based on their statistics, they've had a 5-time turnover in the amount of people who are at least coming to icebreakers for the first 2 meetings of the semester. For me, implementing something, I don't want to undermine Jimmy's work in any sense, I think he's been extremely proactive, but rather than doing anything differently, I'd like to add in a very simple algorithm program that allows people to get more involved on campus. Hopefully that answers your question. Do you have a...
Just like one quick question.
Absolutely.
You talk about fraternities in your little algorithm.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Greek life on campus?
Can you repeat that last sentence?
Greek life on campus, what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I think Greek life on campus, if we're going to at least compare it to the States, is a lot more slow-paced and not really brought to the surface. In a sense, I think this is a little bit better because what it's causing people on campus to do is take secondary approaches to this. Rather than saying how we can bring upon Greek life, quote-unquote, on campus, but if you say this in the States, this generally means partying and liver damage. What this means on campus here, pardon me, is that when you take Greek life, you're twisting this into how do we bring up incredible initiatives like young women in business, or how Alpha Kappa Psi can approach things. I'm not saying it's a fraternity, but incredible initiatives, quote-unquote. Or Alpha Kappa Psi, who brings in a co-ed unit of people to work on things that they're very passionate about, twisting on the secondary obstructions of what a Greek, quote-unquote, unit is, and bring to the surface something like working together, building those Saturday initiatives that you were talking about that bring people into learning incredible secondary skills. I think that can really benefit everybody from pulling away from the party perspective and more of a beneficial perspective.
Okay, yeah, you brought up young women in business, but yes. I think the difference between young women in business and Greek life is that, well, for my values at least, I believe in inclusivity.
Absolutely.
And so do you agree that right now with Greek life, there's not a lot of inclusivity?
Absolutely, I agree, 100%. And I don't want to oppose you on that, but my opposing statement is going to be I think what this has caused SFU to do reactionarily is rather than approaching Greek life from a different perspective, setting Greek life aside and saying, you know what, we should be looking at different things that are equally as important, if not more, such as clubs and initiatives and ideas that are coming up on campus. Bringing up something like Red Cross Student Movement, an incredible initiative that I've started alongside students at UBC, allowed us to bring students in high schools to learn about issues like water security, women facing war, children in drought. These are all issues that students never quite thought about. So rather than looking at this as a perspective of what Greek life can bring to the table, I'd like to set aside Greek life. Personally, I'm not saying everyone has to do this, and saying we can bring forward incredible initiatives that can tell people, let's incorporate high school students, let's incorporate 5th years, 7th years, 1st years, into looking at things that are interdisciplinary skills, incorporating faculties, DSUs. For me, the reason I'm giving you such a long answer to this is because Greek life to me never quite mattered in a sense. The reason I say that is not to undermine any fraternity in a sense. I'll wrap it up very quickly, my apologies. But I feel like there's incredible initiatives that are only recently popping up on campus that are setting away Greek fraternities, or whatever that perspective might be, and bringing to the table things that people can really quite benefit from, as I stated in Young Women in Business. Hopefully that can answer your question in some sense.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So now we've made it to the president's round. So this is going to be our longest round. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible. I'd like to apologize to the audience for starting half an hour late as well. We had some issues with And one more thing, I'd like to give the priority for the first few questions for non-campaigners to ask. And any questions that are not able to be submitted to this debate while this debate occurred, if you could please hand over your questions afterwards to Diane and Shirley, and we'll give them to all of our campaigners so that they have the chance to answer these questions through their social media. Hello, fellas. So I give you 30 seconds to tell us who you are and what you stand for.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming out today and showing your interest in the Student Society election and the representation of student voices. My name is Jas, I'm currently the at-large representative of Student Society, and I'm running to be your next SFSS president. My long history of leading events, advocating for student concerns, and always being on campus makes me a suitable candidate for the SFSS president. If you're looking for a genuine leader who you can trust to represent your voice, vote Jas for president and vote Inspire SFU.
Can you guys in the back hear me? Yeah, awesome. So my name is Amar Singh. I'm with Shift SFU, and I'm not a career politician. I'm a student like yourself who's spoken to over 500 students and understood what pains and problems they experience. And this is the reason why I'm stepping up. Instead of graduating what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm actually stepping up now to be the voice for the students and actually give it down and ensure that what we do is we're creating that relationship with students so that they feel they have a voice, then going using that to co-create and create a sense of community. And then also looking to see how can students here do what they're doing, what they're learning, how can that bridge into life outside of university? And again, if you would like to know more about me, I'm not going to talk about myself. You can contact me afterwards or look me up on LinkedIn at Amar Singh. Thank you guys very much.
All right, so we're going to move on to audience questions. Audience questions, go ahead.
All right, yeah, so this is for both of you. I noticed, Amr, you said something about you're not a career politician. How would you define a career politician, and would you characterize your opponent as being a career politician? And is being a career politician considered a bad thing?
Thank you very much. So what was your name? Hey brother, what was your name?
Moyez, but you can just call me Mo.
Awesome, thanks Moyez. So there are 3 parts to that question. One was, how do I define a career politician, right? The second one is, what was the second part is, do I consider my opponent to be a career politician? And the third part is, a career politician bad?
And I'm just going to mention that Jas is going to have a chance to rebuttal this. No worries.
Awesome. Cool. So first off, thanks Moyez for that question. Now, how do I define a career politician? For myself, a career politician is somebody who has the end goal of going into politics, somebody who sees this as an opportunity for power and sees politics as a way just to move their own agenda forward, to look at building their own ego versus actually serving society. Do I believe that the person of that Jas is a career politician? I feel that that's almost an inappropriate question for me to answer. I have my opinions, and we can talk about that afterwards. But I don't want to degrade the person I'm going against. I think that's not who I am. And is a career politician a bad thing? I think for me, it depends. For me, what's important is that if people are going into politics, they're going in it because they actually give a damn about the people they're serving, right? And that's the reason why I'm going into it. It's because I've heard so many people who've dealt with social isolation. I've heard so many people who've dealt with mental health barriers. I've heard and spoken to so many people who feel they don't belong, who feel powerless. And I was one of those students, right? And so, is a career politician a bad thing? A career politician, if we use my definition of they're using it for their own agenda and they're using it to get to a place of power, yes, that's a bad thing. If they're going to politics for the sake of serving society and serving others, and and approaching with that level of humility, then it's a great thing. But like I said, I'm not going to grade Jas for how he approaches things. I think it's important just to be open and honest. And if you have specific questions, I can answer it afterwards. But I don't want to degrade him in public.
I just want to say thank you for your question, Mo. I want to start off by saying that this is not directly me versus Amr. This is simply my ideas versus Amr's ideas and who can represent the students' voices better. In my opinion, team culture is a big thing, and every year 16 people get elected to the board of directors with different mindsets and capabilities. And I believe just Inspire SFU overall brings a great perspective to the table. And I believe the two incumbents on our team also bring some good experience to the next set of board of directors. Again, I just want everyone to know that this is not a direct candidate versus candidate thing. It should be more of my ideas versus Amr ideas. Thank you.
Thanks for those neutral answers, guys. Next question.
Hi, everyone. One second. Okay, so as presidents, you'll be the staff liaison officer, one of the two, and you'll also be directly, more or less managing the CEO. You're the main liaison with that person representing the board's issues. Basically, the question is, what management experience do you have?
Thank you for your question, Corbett. I've had experience working on different committees within the Student Society. I've worked on the Build Committee, where I've done some negotiation with signage, textiles, construction of the building timeline. I've worked on various events, including the Fall Kickoff Concert. I've worked on some events that did not pass through, but we worked on with the university, such as, for example, holding a petting zoo. And I believe a lot of the experience comes down to having an open mind in the negotiation and always seeing the other side's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Corbett, for your question. So the management experiences that I've had varies in quite a large capacity. From being in charge of a volunteer committee in which we raised 53 grand in 3 months, to being a part of an SFU team that was from the top administrative to students. I've also had administrative and management with our team right here, where it's more of a leadership role rather than a management. It's about being able to listen to what the students and what our team has and how to move forward. So I can go in more detail about all the stuff that I've done if you want. So I've gone to Fiji to homes for impoverished families, and I was elected by our team to be the group lead there. I've been volunteer coordinator with Rotary International, with Richmond Sunrise Rotary, in which I helped raise 120 grand in an evening for our fundraising gala. I have been a part of SFU Change Team. I've been a part of the KPU Builds. I've been, you name it, I've been working in industry, helping raise $1 million for the Pakistan earthquake relief with AM 1550, sharing for the job. I've worked with the city of Surrey and acted as a liaison between the city of Surrey and AM 1550 to be on board within community events. Surrey Fusion Festival being one, Canada Day being the other one. And yeah, I could keep going, but I don't like to brag about myself, so sorry if it sounds arrogant. I just thought the students who are voting should probably know that when it comes to experience and external experience in particular, I have a bit of it, I guess you can say. Cheers.